Hey guys, Steve, Hobo with Wood again, and today we are working on burning an image onto a piece of glass after you've painted it to create something like so. So this was just a plain piece of glass. This actually, though, had some type of frosting on it. This was a picture frame, picture glass, 8 by 10, and there was some type of frosting on the glass for photo purposes, but it kind of played into the result here. I'm not real happy with this one. This was my first attempt. I've got another project on the laser now. But what I did here was just took the 8 by 10 piece of glass, spray painted it horizontally white, let that dry, vertically white, let that dry, then brought it into the laser bed. Now, what I have here is a collage of Family Circus artwork that I grabbed off the internet and just edited it and shaped it to size to fit to fill the inner joke here, which says, what's the magic word to get what you want? I'm offended. But I wasn't really pleased with the complete outcome of this project. That's why we're doing another burn, another test, different settings. This one did not burn away the paint completely, and it left a residue, which required a little heavier scrubbing than I needed to do, and caused it to take away the R in word and part of the F in offended. So I've got another burn, another design on the laser now, and I've done a couple things different. That time I used flood fill to try and maximize the amount of time the laser is being used, make sure there's no wasted energy, and I was able to shave off a half hour or more using flood fill than just fill. But that caused some uneven burns in transitional areas, and I'll show you that here. This one, let's jump in here to Lightburn. This one I'm doing a little Baby Yoda and Star Wars background. And right now the image is mirrored because when you do this on the back of glass, you need to burn the mirror image so that when you look at it from the other side, you can read it correctly. And if we take a look here at first, just look at the preview. Now this, you're showing this is a 2.5 hour burn for, it's an 8 by 10 piece of glass. And the image itself, it's about 4.5 by 10 inches. But 2.5 hours to do this. But now if we look here at the way this is going to burn it in a little Baby Yoda first, and then you'll notice, and I'm just going to hit play here, it will begin to fill and work its way up left to right from bottom to top. Now this is your regular fill, but it's just going to just incrementally build that letter and not jump around the letter, so you don't have to worry about a stop and a start point lining up exactly, or if a difference in the temperature of the paint as it's being burned off, then it cools off and then come back to it again and try to do it again. This is just a constant burn, and I'm thinking and I'm hoping it's going to be a cleaner burn doing this type of process, burning away the paint. Now, in the first attempt I did, we go back in here and I go to our cuts and layers, and I look here and I change this to a flood fill. It was 2.5 hours a minute ago. Now we look at this, hour and 55 minutes. So that cuts off 35 minutes of burn time. But the problem with it, or at least I think a potential problem with it, is now when you watch this start, so it no longer starts building from the bottom up. It's moving from the least amount of travel required to start its burn, and will continue to burn that particular area in its most efficient manner, then goes back there, you see, and fills in those areas. Well, if we watch this area right there, it's, where's my pause? I don't know how to pause this. But when it's got to go back right there and pick up this area right here. This is not burnt, but this was already burned above it. Now it's got to come back and fill up to it. Well, that border between those two lines right there, where those two burn areas meet, I think leaves a little bit of a residue that may or may not be easily cleaned up when you're trying to burn away the paint. So this type of fill, or the flood fill, in this type of burning away paint, and trying to engrave the glass through the paint, it's not as effective, efficient. It's actually more efficient, but it's not as effective. So when we get done here, hopefully I will be much happier with my results. But now I'm burning away paint off the back of the glass, and we're really not going to get too much of an etch going on. So why all the different layers, you ask? Because I've got over here 1, 2, 3, 4 different layers, 5 counting the toolpath. And for those that don't know, and if you come to your line and just right click on that layer, it shows you what's on that layer. All right, so that's just the outline of Little Yoda. The next one are the ears of Little Yoda. Then the facial features and the garment on Yoda. And then lastly, just the Star Wars. Now, if you'll look, one difference is the power. These are identical. They're both being done at 70 millimeters a second and 80% power. But this one, the feel for the facial features and for the garment, I'm doing it at 90% power so that it's going to hopefully be cleaned even more, have a better clean, a better burn to it. And if there is any etching going on, that's going to have more etching taking place, just to give a different texture to that glass after the burn and cleanup. And then lastly, we can't see this one because I got multiple layers going on, but if we open it, it's at 70 and 95. So that's even more power to give the potential for more engraving taking place on the word Star Wars. And I'm doing it for 2 passes. But there's more of a difference than just the power taking place. And we'll move this to the side so we can see the work area good. Try and keep it above the camera, move the camera. All right, so let's look at the first layer. The first layer is the outline of Little Yoda. Now, it's being done at a 0.08, 318 lines per inch, bidirectional, but a 0.08 interval. And then we look at the ears. They were at 70 and 80, and so is this at 70, 80. But the difference is I changed the lines per inch to 0.12. So by changing the interval, I've got less lines per inch here in the ears than I do around the body and the other parts. And there I'm actually hoping that maybe I don't get as a complete burn. There's a little texture left there just to add character to that part of this engraving, this burn. Come down to the next one. I'm back to a 0.08 bidirectional feel. So that, now the difference is the body, because it's such a small line, it's just a single pass. But here with the facial features and the garment, it's on a crosshatch. And if you see here, this is your area telling you this is the crosshatch. We turn that on and off. There's without the crosshatch. That's how all the engraving and the burning's been taking place at this point. Everything's just back and forth, left to right, horizontal. But this one I implemented the crosshatch, which brings in essentially a second burn on this layer. So we're actually getting 2 burns, but one horizontal, one vertical. and that's going to change the way that it's cleaned and possibly any texture of the area that's left. And these are really just a way for me to do test burns on one burn and try and get the results on multiple different tests. I'm maximizing this, what is going to be a 2.5 hour burn on this laser. So I want to get as much information back from this as possible. And then lastly, I've got this one now. I actually got a much larger, fewer lines per inch, a larger interval, 0.2. Now that's the largest out of all of them. That's going to be a really large line interval on Star Wars. I'm doing it on a crosshatch, and I'm doing it 2 passes. So essentially that's going to be 4 burns for the word Star Wars. And the way we can look and see what that's going to do, we go back to preview, and from there, you really can't see a whole lot of difference. And where I'm counting on seeing the difference is in real life. We zoom in here, see that? This is what I'm counting on seeing. This is the larger lines per interval. You can see the crosshatch. Here's the body or the outline of Baby Yoda, and it's just a single burn on a horizontal. There's his garment and a crosshatch, but it's a much higher. I think that was 0.08, where this is 2.2. So there's the difference between your lines per inch and your intervals. So I'm hoping that this texture translates through on the burn and or the engraving and or any residual paints that are left. Again, you can see here, there's the difference. I'm hoping that whereas it's visible here, it's going to be also visible in the final burn. I hope. So there's a final burn. I like the way this is looking from the backside with that extreme crosshatch texture and the difference in textures from the different layers. There's crosshatch, but it's a lot. Come on, focus. There we go. That's crosshatch, but it's a lot tighter weave. There's more lines per inch. You can see the texture in the Star Wars, that crosshatch. So that's, I don't see a lot of etching or engraving going on, but you have distinct differences. Now this is before any cleanup, so I'm going to go clean this up and see what we got. So there's our finished project. Turned out pretty decent in spite of the framing gaffes. Like I said, I didn't allow enough framing around the perimeter. Not so noticeable on this side, but there the W's kind of cut off by the frame. I didn't come in off the glass far enough to start the image, but that's clean and slick, nice texture and texture. So not only are your power settings and your speed something you can play with, but you can also accomplish a lot by changing your lines per inch. As always, guys, thanks for watching.
This has been a fun project. Learned a little bit. Uh, Played with some new techniques. Have some ideas to use this in some future projects, both in wood and in acrylic. Uh, Look for those upcoming videos. I'm going to play with some techniques with burning acrylic and different LPIs. I appreciate all of my subscribers. If you've enjoyed this video and you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, hit that subscription button and the notification bell. Look for any upcoming future videos. I enjoy doing these and trying to find something new and share my experiences with you guys. And if nothing else, you learn what not to do. So this is Steve, Hobo with Wood. See you in the next video.